Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to my speech on Rise of the Hyperchain. My name's Daniel Lumi. I'm the Senior Product Manager of zkStack for zkSync. There's two down buttons, apparently. Well, today we'll talk about our vision of scaling blockchain to mainstream adoption. And first, I'll just explain a little bit of Matter Labs and how it relates to zkSync. So Matter Labs, we're the inventor of zkSync, and now we're one of the core contributors. We're one of the leading zk companies in the world. We raised over $250 million. We have over 150 world-class cryptographers, engineers, experts from companies like SpaceX, Twitter, like Google, Apple. We really have a world-class team. zkSync Era is currently the world's leading blockchain, zk blockchain. We've been proven with over 40 million monthly transactions for over a year. We're by far the most scalable L2, and we'll get an order of magnitude soon more. And we will have lower fees with Validium than any Alt L1. As an L2, we essentially inherit the decentralization and security from Ethereum using zero-knowledge proofs. So our goal for zkSync is to make a safe blockchain that is easy to use, scalable limitlessly, horizontally, and cheap at any arbitrary scale. And the most important part of this is no compromises. Like, this is the whole reason why we're in blockchain, is blockchain. If we start making compromises, just use AWS instead. So today, the problem with blockchains, I'll go into the dilemma. Not trilemma, before you jump on me, dilemma. So to kind of explain the problem in blockchain, let's first explain how internet scales. So as a mental model, just think of on your laptop. Like if you have one game running, okay, maybe it works, but then you boot up Excel, then you boot up Chrome, and honestly, it's probably gonna be Chrome that at some point it crashes your laptop, right? You cannot run every single application on one computer. And so how does the internet fix this? Well, let's say that you have 1,000 people pre-ordering iPhones. They get it from one server. And essentially, if there's over 1,000 people, that server would crash. So they essentially just copy the state, start up a new server, and you never have to know which server you're getting your iPhone from, but it's all apple.com. It's abstracted away. So the internet scales essentially horizontally, linear to the amount of resources allocated to it. So if you have one computer, you get 1x scale. If you have 10 computers, you get 10x scale. So how does blockchain currently scale? And the whole point of blockchain is to reach a global truth, a global state of what is the current state of this blockchain so that you don't have to trust anyone. But then the problem on that is every single computer on the network needs to run every single application, every single transaction, over and over again around the world, right? So you end up in this situation where a blockchain has to essentially choose either scalability or sovereignty and decentralization, right? And even if you pretend like you can scale to masses, at some point you can't even run all the internet on one supercomputer. Like it's just, you can't scale to any significant portion of mass adoption. And at that point, if you're running on a few PCs, what's the point of blockchain? So the problem with blockchain is if you have one server running it, you get 1x scale. If you have 10 servers, you still have 1x scale. If you have 1,000 servers, you still have 1x scale, right? And this is the compromise that you have to make. So how about scaling through cross-chain? Please don't do that. Again, the whole point is a global state. Cross-chain is not trustless. It's not even trust minimized. Anyone that tells you they can make it even slightly the same security level as either blockchain or any of the blockchains connected is lying or not aware. So it's all over. Like, sorry Vitalik, we tried. Like, let's just get jobs in banking, I guess, now. Don't worry, we're working on it. It's called the Hyperchain. ZK is the end game. I'll get back to this in a second. So essentially the Hyperchain is made up of two components, the core and then the framework. So let's first explain the core. And the core is actually essentially the technology that we use for zkSync L2, right? But you can use the same core on a bunch of different blockchains, and any work that's done on that core every single other one of those blockchains inherit automatically. So here's some of the core features that we'll break down in a moment, I believe. It's been a while since I saw this. So we chose a different path than any other L2. We chose to highly optimize for mass market scale, right? So currently we do 100 to 200 TPS max, which is compared to 3 to 15 TPS that every other L2 does, or 20. And we have an order of magnitude coming in a matter of months, right? So orders of magnitude more scalable. It was the lowest fees of any L1, L2. If you see that optimistic rollups have a lower fee, it's because they're not accounting the fact that people have to pay to exit 7 days early. So actually, if you add all the bridging transactions and amortize those, optimistic L2s actually still cost more than zk L2s. With Validium, we will be a fraction of a penny, like cheaper than Solana or any other blockchain. And that's with real fees. That's not dumping billions on community. That's like the actual cost of running the chain. We have an extremely optimized prover. It's called Bujum. You can run this on like a consumer gaming PC. It only requires 6 gigabytes of GPU RAM, meaning you can really decentralize this. It's a misconception that proving is expensive or hard. It's not. That's nowhere near any blockchain's, zk blockchain's bottleneck. So one of the reasons why we have the cheapest fees of also any zk L2 is we're the only L2 in the EVM space that uses state diffs. And essentially state diffs, instead of publishing every single transaction, every bit of data, we publish the differences. So if I send you 1 ETH, you send me 1 ETH, I send you 1 ETH, you send me 1 ETH, nothing happened. You don't update it on L1. And that sounds simple. I know state diffs are hard to understand, but that actually has huge benefits, right? So like you can do extremely frequent price updates through oracles. You can literally update it thousands of times in a block and pay once. You can do extremely high frequency trading. We have a protocol launching on us that'll do 300,000 TPS in order book. And it's really cheap because again, it's amortized. You can do extremely complex transactions for much less. You can do reoccurring payments. You get on-chain privacy automatically with, or you can get with state diffs. And we have a new, okay, Marcin would kill me for saying this, our chief architect. We have a new design for where you can essentially batch mint NFTs for next to nothing. Like literally next to nothing, but stay tuned, sorry, Marcin. We also, we're getting to the point that with this solution that I'll talk more about, we're finally entering the stage of it's actually scalable. Like blockchain doesn't scale. Now it's actually scalable. So it starts becoming a question of product and UX. That's where we have to go next. And we really care about UX. We deeply care. We're making massive investments this year into just making it much smoother than even Web2 applications. And one of those core features is native account abstraction. So let's say that for example, you're sending your mom USDC or your mom's sending you USDC. You can pay the fee in USDC. You don't have to think of what ETH is in between. It happens automatically, but the difference in us is, for us, it's native account abstraction, not a patch on in the end. So this works on EOA accounts like MetaMask or smart contract wallets. Like every wallet in zkSync is a smart contract wallet. So you can add some super cool features, such as social recovery to every single account, not just smart contract accounts. You can add transaction rules that you don't have to sign if it's under X or way more complicated versions. You can sign a transaction with your secure enclave on your phone. This is actually working right now. I can show you afterwards. It's a really cool UX. And you can have session keys for it. Let's say you're playing a game, so you only have to sign once, and you don't have to keep signing. So you log in, and then it works. With zk Porter and Validium, so Volition and Validium, you essentially also get flat fees. So you're going to see, especially with optimistic L2s, or actually every L2 except the ones that use state diffs, as the blob transaction price goes up, those fees are going to go up really fucking quick, right? So we're going to end up in that situation where L2s are paying a shit ton of money, again, for transactions the way that Ethereum did. So we have something called Validium, not the same as Optimimium. Don't do Optimimiums, that's sidechains. You can essentially store data off-chain using zero-knowledge proofs. You essentially get more or less the security of a rollup. Not quite, but it's honestly not that bad. And with this, you get flat transaction fees. So today, it'll be less than a penny. In 10 years, it'll be less than a penny regardless of how much ETH goes up. Like, it just doesn't go up the same way as roll-up fees do. So this is future scalable. And security, like, the security is hard and core for us. That's the reason why we're using zk. Like, we've spent 6.5 million. That's probably outdated now. It's probably more like 8 million. In audits, like, we use mathematical proofs. We have, like, you might be worried about zk proof systems. We have two-factor authentication through SGX coming out. That essentially, like, you would have to hack Intel, have a zero-day exploit in the zk proof. You'd have to corrupt Matter Labs. You'd have to corrupt the Security Council and find the signing key. And that's, like, next to impossible. So, like, your funds will be safe. Like, we really work on that a lot. It happens a lot in the back end, but it's a massive priority. We are developer obsessed. We've been having to work on, like, we have an actually scalable solution right now, unlike any other protocol. So we, like, now our focus is on UX, but that includes DevX. We already have Foundry out. We have Remix, Hard Hat, and we're gonna make a super big investment also into developer experience. We consider part of user experience. With automatic SDKs, you can just plug and play. It'll cut down development time a massive amount. And we can do much more than EVM on this too, because we have the freedom to expand on this. So, like, these are features that we built over 5 years, right? You can't just slap on zk onto some protocol and pretend it's going to be as efficient. Like, it's not. Like, we have world-class experts. If that was possible, we could have done it too, and we could still do it. It's not. Like, these are not features that you can just copy paste onto any L2. So we are at least 1 or a couple years ahead in technological progression than any of our competitors, and many years in some cases. So here you have many different hyperchains, right? But now, like, you end up in the same situation, right? There's a bunch of different L2s. It fragments liquidity. It fragments users, right? The key point of it is they're actually all sitting on the same shared bridge. They all have the same contract on L1. And then comes in zkStack, which is my product. It's the framework that ties it all together. So using zkStack, you can automatically spin up these chains, really easy. In the future, going to be much easier. And you can just keep spinning up limitless amounts of these chains onto the same shared bridge. And then we have this interoperability layer in between. That's part of zkStack too, which makes it essentially trustless, no additional trust assumptions to just using any L2, where all the different chains can communicate with each other extremely fast. So yeah, let's see if this plays. zkStack it's a developer-friendly framework for essentially spinning up new blockchains. So you don't have to spend the time developing. You can just focus on what your product is and your business logic, and, like, the core devs will build the rest, and you can contribute as well. So every one of these chains has a wide array of customization, from where your data is to, like actual gas token. You can have your own gas token, so it adds value to it. You can have different types of sequencing, proving, data availability modes, EVM modes, more about that, not public. So with this, we're essentially trying to make a blockchain that gets to internet scale, like actually gets to internet scale. Before that, blockchain doesn't scale, guys. Sorry, like, it doesn't. Until we have to make every single L1, every single L2, we'll need to do the same design. And again, the key point of this is the zk interoperability. And zk essentially makes it possible for you to have, like, funds on one chain, let's say Chronos chain. You can trigger a DEX somewhere else. You don't have to worry about what chain it's on. Your ETH gets sent from that chain to the other chain, swaps it to USDC, and then just returns the funds. So you didn't actually have to think about what chain you're using. So essentially, all of those chains create this massive internet of value. It's not a fragmented ecosystem. You have all the shared users, or you can tap into the same users, you can tap into the same liquidity. Arbitrage will happen, like, really automatically. it creates this, the same way when you go to the internet, you don't have to worry about where Apple hosts its front end, where its user database is, which instance it is. It just kind of works. And this gets, for the first time, blockchain to just limitlessly scale. I don't like the word infinite. Limitlessly scale like the web does, right? And the key point, no compromises. Like, we inherit all the values that we built blockchain for in the first place. And one of those like values is, one of the cool things is you can take because of zero knowledge proofs, you can prove each transaction horizontally, then essentially make a combined proof of proofs to make the batch. Then you can make a proof of many batches to make, blocks to make a batch. And then you can combine those together, and that's one proof that verifies the whole chain. But now every single one of those L2s does it, and you can verify the entire network in milliseconds. And everyone can be a verifying node. I know that's, again, a bit complex, but these are the points of blockchain. In the future, when Ethereum will prove essentially batches or blocks of L1 transactions, it'll be built into the clients. You can verify all of Ethereum and every single L2, zkL2, or every single hyperchain in milliseconds and know that's correctly executed and it's actually the valid state. ZK is the end game. Like, it really is. And like, the thing that people don't realize is this is not just like a bunch of dApps building on Ethereum, for example, right? We have already signed up. We have so many partners. It's incredible. We're talking to like central banks, like massive media franchises, sports franchises, and we're signing these also. Like, it's not theoretical conversations. It's not some crappy NFT side thing they're doing. It's like they're moving their backend onto it. And also traditional companies, they realize what an existential threat this is to them. Why do you need these payment networks, these banks, right? So they're actually reaching out to us because anyone that actually needs scalable technology has to come to us. And bankers realize what decentralization means and the reality to have scalable and cheap transactions. So for example, we have Kronos already spinning up a chain. They have an addressable user base of over 80 million people. We have ZK Candy, which is the largest game developer in all of Southeast Asia and New Zealand and Australia, deploying a chain. And you have played these games, or you've heard of them at least. And they're going to start deploying. They're moving fully into Web3, and they have billions in own franchises too. We have Tradable, which has, over 2 trillion in asset originations. We have Gravity, which I mentioned before, like an incredibly smooth order book. It's a better version of Coinbase. And there's so many other partners. Like, it's really super exciting. We're right on the point where we're about to launch into mainstream adoption. And we need to have the technology that can either like actually support it. And while companies and blockchains tend to sell you fluff because that's the point we've gotten to, like, we actually need to support it. We can't just be words. Like, this is why we optimize for mass market scaling. And the thing on this, the dApp points, these aren't just random dApps developing it. These are companies spinning up their own sovereign chains. So it's this massive group of companies all contributing to the same protocol, the zkSync network, the Hyperchain, right? And that becomes an exponential growth pattern, because if Kronos creates unique applications, brings users, every other chain inherits those. And then they build more, because now they have more users, they're making more money, and it becomes this sort of exponential growth pattern. And this is like, they're all motivated to work together. It's not an adversarial environment, because you benefit if every other ecosystem in it benefits. Everything we build at Matter Labs follows something called ZK Credo, right? And it's actually the same values of blockchain itself. We are here to scale the values of Ethereum to mass market. Everything we will ever make will be open source. Everything will be permissionless. No one can stop you from deploying it. No one can stop you from withdrawing your funds. Like, you can fork it, do anything. Like, we're here for the moral values. That is our mission and statement. Join the future. If you want to come build on zkSync in general, or spin up your own ZK stack chain, happy to talk to you. Like, we are entering this phase of exponential growth, and we're really going to feel it. That's old. Don't do that. You can follow me on X. I hate saying X. Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at zkLumi. You can also follow zkSync at zkSync. ZK is the end game. Like, that's it. End of story. It's hard to explain succinctly. That's why we started talking about ZK as the end game, because anyone that looks into it realizes this is the only option for scaling. That's it. Thank you.
Big round of applause. If anybody has any questions, please raise your hand. I can give you the mic. Okay.
Hey, you say that there are some banks and central banks which you're partnered with. Are those under NDAs, or can you talk more about that?
I can't talk about those, unfortunately. For central banks especially, again, we're morals-driven company, so it's a permissionless protocol. Anyone can deploy on it, and we encourage it, but at the same time, if we're going to, as Matter Labs, partner with them to help them succeed, we have very stringent requirements and moral guidance that will determine how we partnership with them.
So when those partnerships start gaining track and it comes to mass adoption, are those partnerships going to be publicly known, or?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
An example of this that is publicly known is we are the Hyperchain for Cork ID, which is the digital identity system for all of Argentina. That will, right now it's optional, so there's about 2 million users. That will become in time like something you have to do. That's 40 million users. If you're attesting to something on a blockchain, you should do everything else on that same blockchain. So, like, just following logic, we're probably going to become the default payment system for all of Argentina, including their tickets, including everything else.
Thank you.
All right, any more questions? All right, then one more big hand of applause for Lumi from Matter Labs.